Canada is collapsing. A rich and prosperous country that ranked as one of the best places to live has now become an unaffordable and unlivable nightmare. Life in Canada is becoming increasingly unaffordable for the average person across the country. Canadians are grappling with rapidly rising costs of essentials like housing, groceries, and utilities, while wages have remained largely stagnant for nearly 2 decades. This combination has created a perfect storm of financial strain, reducing disposable income, and forcing many to make tough decisions about their spending. According to a new report by CBC News, affordability in Canada is at a crisis point and is one of the biggest issues in the upcoming election, with political parties presenting different visions of how to help Canadians with the rising costs of living. Additionally, a survey from Food Banks Canada found that nearly 1 in 5 Canadians reported going hungry due to soaring costs.
It's been a tough year for Edmonton's food bank as it reels from sky-high demand.
Well, this is not sustainable over time.
Roughly 45,000 people now depend on its food hampers, about 10,000 more than this time 2 years ago. The need is creating so much strain. Starting as early as February, the food bank will start limiting how often people can use its services.
It's a rough situation for us because, of course, we don't want people going hungry in our community. At the same time, we have to be able to serve as many people as we can.
Housing is arguably the most significant factor driving the cost of living crisis. Over the past few years, property prices and rent rates have skyrocketed across Canada. Cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and even smaller urban centers like Halifax have seen double-digit percentage increases in housing costs. For homeowners, rising mortgage rates driven by central bank interest rate hikes have put immense pressure on monthly budgets. Renters face an equally grim reality. Many are stuck in bidding wars for apartments, with landlords raising prices due to high demand and limited supply. For those trying to enter the housing market, the dream of homeownership feels increasingly out of reach as property prices outpace wage growth. The result is families are spending a much larger percentage of their income on shelter, leaving less for other necessities like food, transportation, or healthcare. A standard financial guideline is that housing should consume no more than 30% of one's income, yet for many Canadians, it's closer to 50% or more. For example, Toronto's housing market has seen an extraordinary rise in prices. In 2004, the average home in Toronto was around $400,000. Fast forward to 2024, and the average home price has skyrocketed to over $1 million. Vancouver has experienced a similar trend. Over the past 2 decades, the average price of a detached home in Vancouver has increased significantly. In 2004, the average price was around $500,000, and by 2024, it has reached approximately $2 million. This represents a 300% increase. Unfortunately, renting is not much of a cheaper alternative. It's absolutely staggering how rent prices in Canadian cities have soared in 2024. Take Toronto, for example. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment now stands at a jaw-dropping $2,500 per month. But it gets even more outrageous. In Vancouver, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is around $2,700 per month, while a two-bedroom unit costs $3,600. Given these figures, it's clear that housing costs are consuming a significant portion of the average Canadian's income. The situation is dire. Families and individuals are being squeezed out of the rental market, forced to make impossible choices between paying rent, buying groceries, and the dream of affordable housing is a distant memory as rent prices continue to climb, leaving many Canadians struggling to make ends meet. It's not just housing that's draining Canadians' wallets. Grocery prices have been climbing steadily, with inflation hitting what most households rely on: bread, milk, vegetables, and meat. Food prices in Canada have been on an upward trajectory, with significant increases observed over the past few years. According to Canada's Food Price Report 2024, overall food prices are expected to rise by 2.5% to 4.5% this year. For a family of 4, this translates to an annual grocery bill of approximately $16,000, an increase of $701 compared to 2023. The impact of these price hikes is felt nationwide, but it's especially severe in remote northern communities. In regions like Inuvik in the Northwest Territories, logistical challenges and transportation costs have led to extremely high grocery prices. For instance, a package of 4 chicken breasts can cost as much as $47.
Come get groceries with us in the Arctic. So we're in Inuvik, Northwest Territories. And groceries here aren't even close to as expensive as the other northern communities because our community is a lot less isolated than others. And we have a highway that goes in and out of our community. But I thought $47 for 4 chicken breasts was kind of crazy. I don't really know what normal grocery prices are down south, but we got 2 bags of groceries. And this is what we got, and it was $215, which isn't as close to as bad as other communities.
Just on X and TikTok alone, you can see countless examples of how bad this is getting. For example, this person had to pay 45 Canadian dollars for 2 veggie trays. And there are several other videos just showing how bad the prices are getting. Like this one, for example.
Showing an American what grocery prices in Canada are like.
You can buy 1 bulb of garlic for 50 cents at home. $4 for 2. $7 for a head of cauliflower, a single head, and half of these are moldy. Cinnamon spiced honey, $18 a jar. 2 for $17. Sparkling water, 2 for $17. Sparkling water. One isn't a price thing, it's just look at what French people call goldfish.
Crystal Leon.
Just get myself the tiniest goddamn bundle of, for $30, dried flowers for $30.
As home prices and the cost of living in Canada are getting worse, Canadians' wages have been fairly stagnant since 2006. Data from Trading Economics indicates that wage growth averaged 2.5% from 1992 to 2024, with notable fluctuations during this period. For instance, wage growth peaked at 10% in May 2020, likely due to pandemic-related factors. Inflation has also played a significant role in eroding real wages. Historical data shows that inflation rates have varied with notable peaks in recent years. For example, in 2022, the inflation rate reached 6.8%, significantly higher than the average wage growth during the same period. This disparity means that even when nominal wages increase, the real value of earnings, what those wages can actually purchase, has declined. As a result, Canadians find themselves spending a larger portion of their income on essentials with less available money for saving or discretionary spending. And despite personal income in Canada showing some growth in absolute terms, for instance, it increased to 1.7 million Canadian dollars in the third quarter of 2024 from 1.6 in the second quarter. When adjusted for inflation, the real household personal disposable income has remained relatively flat, indicating that any nominal increases are being offset by rising living costs. So this stagnation in real disposable income suggests that Canadians are not experiencing meaningful improvements in their financial well-being. Despite apparent increases in earnings, these figures that show that they're earning more, it's just not really the case. The fact is, Canadian households are sinking deeper and deeper into debt, with the country now holding the highest per capita household debt among G7 nations. This debt to GDP ratio surpassed 100%, indicating that Canadians owe more collectively than the entire economic output of the country. The primary driver of this debt is, unsurprisingly, the cost of housing. Mortgages constitute about 3/4 of household debt in Canada, a direct consequence of a housing market that has spiraled completely out of control. Parallel to the debt crisis is a troubling increase in homelessness across the country. Since 2018, there has been a 20% rise in the number of people experiencing homelessness. Even more alarming is the 88% increase in unsheltered homelessness, indicating that more people are actually living on the streets without access to emergency shelters. And the response from policymakers has been inadequate. While there is acknowledgement of the housing affordability crisis, actions taken have been insufficient to stem the tide. Measures such as the 2-year ban on foreign homebuyers are mere band-aids on a gaping wound. The lack of substantial investment in affordable housing and the lack of real change and solving the real sources of these problems reflect a government that is out of touch with the struggles of its citizens. Canada's current government has also demonstrated a profound disconnect from the realities faced by its citizens, particularly in its handling of immigration. By allowing unprecedented numbers of immigrants into the country without ensuring adequate housing and infrastructure, the government has exacerbated existing crises, leading to increased competition for limited resources and a decline in public support for immigration. Canada, like almost every Western nation, has an aging population, and to address labor shortages and an aging population, the Canadian government has pursued aggressive immigration targets. The ratio of working-age individuals to retirees has plummeted from 7 to 1 in 1971 to a projected 2 to 1 by 2036, leading policymakers to view immigration as the only way to solve these economic challenges. However, this strategy has been implemented with little regard for the existing housing crisis, resulting in dire consequences for both newcomers and long-standing residents. The government's failure to synchronize immigration policies with housing availability has led to a surge in demand and that the current market cannot accommodate. Mass immigration has intensified pressures on the housing sector, particularly in the rental market, driving up prices and deepening shortages. This lack of foresight has left many immigrants and Canadians alike struggling to find affordable housing. Further compounding the issue is the dramatic increase in temporary residents, including international students and temporary workers, whose total numbers have reached 3 million in a country of only 40 million. All of this reflects a government that is out of touch with its people, a government that is harming ordinary Canadians with a total disregard for the well-being of its citizens. Unsurprisingly, public support for immigration has done a complete 180, dropping from 66% in favor in 2018 to 58% against in 2024. Canada, a country that is known for being very welcoming towards immigrants, has now started to reject them. In response to the backlash, the government has announced plans to actually reduce immigration targets. However, these measures are seen by so many as too little, too late. The damage has been done, and trust in the government's ability to manage immigration and housing policies effectively have been severely undermined. This erosion of trust has spilled over into every facet of the government's performance, culminating into a full-blown political crisis. Canada is currently embroiled in a significant political crisis marked by the abrupt resignation of Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. On December 16, 2024, Chrystia Freeland, a pivotal figure in Trudeau's administration, resigned from her positions as Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. Her departure occurred just hours before she was scheduled to deliver the government's fall economic statement. The loss of such a senior and influential cabinet member has led to increased calls for Trudeau's resignation from both opposition parties and members within his own Liberal Party. The New Democratic Party, or NDP, previously a supporter of Trudeau's minority government, has announced plans to introduce a vote of no confidence when Parliament reconvenes, potentially leading to early elections. The political turmoil is compounded by Canada's economic challenges, including rising household debt, increasing poverty, and a housing crisis exacerbated by uncoordinated immigration policies. Public dissatisfaction with the government's handling of these issues has grown, with approval ratings for Justin Trudeau's administration declining sharply. As of December 2024, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's approval rating has plummeted to approximately 28%, a stark decline from the 63% approval he enjoyed when he was first elected in 2015. This significant drop places Trudeau among the least popular Canadian prime ministers in recent history. Furthermore, the Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre, has experienced a surge in public support. Recent polls indicate a substantial lead for the Conservatives over the Liberals, with some surveys showing a 20-point advantage. For instance, an Abacus data poll from July 2024 reported that 43% of committed voters favored the Conservatives, compared to 23% for the Liberals. The anticipated early election, originally scheduled for October 20, 2025, is now expected to actually occur sooner due to the government's collapse. The Conservatives' substantial lead in the polls suggests that they are well positioned to secure a majority government. Their campaign has focused on addressing economic concerns, reducing taxes, and implementing policies aimed at alleviating the financial burdens faced by Canadians. But will the Conservatives be able to rescue Canada's economy and repair the harm that years and years of massive immigration and poor housing policies have inflicted on this nation? Who knows? But as Canadians head to the polls, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will this election mark the beginning of a new chapter for Canada, or is it just too late for Canada? Let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you're going to like this video here or this video here. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. See you later.